Hey, it's Randy from UC Status. Welcome to another episode of Ditch the Box. Today I'm going to show you a new device for Microsoft Teams rooms. You might not be able to get the brand straight away, but it's from AudioCodes. So AudioCodes was working with Dolby, who's most famous for bringing you great sound in cinemas and in home theaters and things like that. But Dolby were working on a range of SIP devices and also devices for Microsoft Teams from their kind of circular conference phone that I call the UFO. But then there's this device. It's the new call-out bar or Microsoft Teams rooms on Android. It's called the RXV80. So the Dolby brand is very, very prominent in the middle, as you can see there. Of course, you got the little AC logo. And of course, this is the actual audio for the device. You've got AC in the middle. For those that are clever enough to notice, this is basically a Jabra puck that's been OEM'd to AudioCodes, and they've been allowed to put their logo here. I've got it on a tripod, but you can mount it on a TV or on a wall or wherever you need to. And it comes with a little remote control here that actually has a bunch of useful buttons. It's probably one of the best remote controls I've seen for the device, which is a good thing, of course, because if you've used Microsoft Teams rooms on Android and they don't have a touch panel, which this one doesn't, it means that you're faced with using an actual remote control or pairing, a mouse and keyboard or something, or probably best of all would be to use a touchscreen monitor, which I don't have, and then you can just tap the buttons as you need to, as you can see there. So the device itself, as you can see, it's really small. So I'm just going to hold my hand up for scale. It is minuscule. So the camera itself is quite big for the size of the actual body itself. You got some presence lights in the front that shows you the device is unoccupied or it's kind of not doing anything right now. I've actually got this all plugged in, but I'm just going to swing it around carefully and show you around the back. Quite good use of ports and things. You've got Ethernet all the way over on the side. It doesn't run on PoE, it does run on mains, which is over here. Of course, you got a PC lock just there, kind of a reset button that just restarts the device. You got two USB ports here. One I've actually just got connected to the actual speaker puck, and the other one I've actually just got dangling free just for plugging in a mouse and keyboard. You got two HDMI ports. One is for HDMI in and the other is for HDMI out. So the HDMI out is of course connected to just this screen here. The HDMI in I've just got trailing across the floor for doing content ingest, which is a new feature. As you can see in Microsoft Teams rooms, you got the share button just there. Means you just plug in your laptop and you share into the screen itself, but also into a Microsoft Teams meeting. Now if I just quickly show you underneath, you just got a standard camera mount, that little screw point there, and then if I just swing that, you can see it's got like an articulated hinge, a little front bar there. It's also got like a rubberized pad here, here, and of course here, and it means it will grip onto a screen or mount or anything like that. So it means you can actually just connect it directly and set it directly on top of an actual monitor. And of course you've got rubberized foot on the bottom as well. So if you wanted to put it on a shelf or some sort of mounting bracket, I've actually got a shelf here that I could just place it on. So really it depends on the room setup and how you want to do things, whether you'd have the device below or above the screen. I've always said that it's good to have the device and the camera itself at eye line with the people in the room itself. Right, so if I just show you around the remote control, you've got a power button at the top, a Teams button, a camera button here which stops and starts video in Teams meetings. You've got a D-pad and an OK button, home, back, a menu button, volume up and down, mute, call answer, and call end. Now if I go into the actual settings themselves, it takes you straight into the settings. Don't have to go through that other way of doing it. So if I just scroll down to more and then settings, and then I'd have to go into device settings to get it into the same place. So if I just go back to home, now if I press settings, it takes me straight in there. Really, really convenient having a button directly for settings themselves. Another little useful feature of this remote is if I hold down the camera button, it actually takes me to the camera settings directly. I do have to authenticate And now I'm logged in. As you can see, this is what the camera is seeing. I can actually adjust the PTZ directly from there, just using the D-pad to move around. I can use the volume up and down to actually zoom in. Of course, the back button, I can adjust the brightness if I needed to, the contrast, saturation. I can turn HDR on or off. But I can also save a view. So if I wanted to save that as a preset, I just press Save View, and I can actually add new presets. So it means that when I'm in a meeting, if I want to choose a different preset, I just long press the camera button. It pops up with this menu here, and I can actually just adjust and move around to one of those presets. Quite a nifty little feature. It's the only Teams rooms on Android that I know of that actually has presets, so I think that's pretty cool. And of course, I can just reset all the settings and of course go back. And that takes me straight back to the actual Teams room interface. Of course, I've got a meet now, and it means I can start typing and find someone in the directory, which I'm not going to do. As I mentioned, I've got HDMI in, so I can actually share directly into the meeting. And as I said, you can go into settings just there. Right, in terms of management for the RXV80, like most AudioCodes devices, there's no web UI, which is one of my biggest criticisms about AudioCodes devices, at least in Teams mode. If the devices are in 3-pip or Skype for Business mode, or even SIP mode, there is a web UI and you can get at some settings. But because Microsoft is actually controlling most of the actual settings for Teams Room, those can only be managed from the Teams Admin Center and that kind of thing. So there's really no point in having a lot of those settings exposed. However, if you wanted to get at some of the other device settings and things, you've only got a couple of ways of managing them. Obviously, from the device itself, you can use SSH to actually get on and upload a config file, or you can use the AudioCodes Device Manager, either Device Manager Express or something built into OVOC or something like that. And even then, I'm not even sure you'll be able to manage as many of the settings as you'd want. You can't adjust the camera, you can't get at presets or anything like that. You'd have to do all those locally from the device itself. So what size space would you use the RXV80 in? Well, really, it's certified for Microsoft Teams rooms in the small meeting room category. The camera itself is very, very good. It's very bright, very, very well defined, and that HDR makes things sharp and crisp. It doesn't have anything useful like group framing or speaker tracking. It's all down to adjustments and doing manual settings or even moving through those presets. So it's really for the kind of small, maybe huddle space would be very good. But even something like a personal space. So if you've got a small space, maybe a dedicated screen the other side of the room, and you want to use the camera and the audio that's built into this, maybe get a USB extension to use the puck on your desk, then I think that would be a good use of its characteristics. Or maybe if you're an exec and you've got a meeting space or a table the other side of the room, and maybe a screen on the wall, something like this, a very small, very discreet kind of bar might be for you. You wouldn't use it on a tripod like I've got it, maybe on your desk or anything like that, but you never know. Some people might actually want to do that. If you do have the space and maybe another screen or something, I think that might be a good use case. So I'd probably stick to the kind of huddle space and that sort of thing. The great thing is it's small stature. If you've seen my other videos, the Rally bar is probably the biggest Collab bar at 3 feet long or 910 millimeters. And this is definitely the smallest. It's even smaller than the VC210 from Yealink, which is kind of their older Teams rooms on Android. So definitely at the very small end. In terms of looks, it's a little bit boxy. It may not be for everybody, but I think if you've got a room that's kind of dark and moody and stuff like that, then maybe this might fit into your aesthetic. Any positives that I would like to call out? The remote control. So AudioCodes and Dolby definitely nailed it when it comes to the remote control for Teams rooms on Android. I wouldn't use it for typing and things like that because as you've seen, it's a little bit clunky kind of moving around the screen. For that, I would either go for a touch screen or a mouse and keyboard is probably the way I'd go. The fact that you can get directly out the camera settings from the remote control is a big bonus. It means that if you do have to do those manual adjustments and of course those presets, which is another great kind of unique feature, it means you can get at those quickly. You don't have to fumble through menus and menu after menu to actually get at that. Also, the direct button into the settings, so if you do need to get at the settings, because you don't have a web UI or any other way of managing it, getting directly at the settings without having to go through too many clicks and things like that, again, is a very, very good feature. The camera itself, as I said, the camera, for the size of the device, the camera is absolutely amazing. The audio, I think the audio is pretty good, but that's thanks to them partnering with Jabra and actually using an OEM version of their puck. As you can see, I've got it set up on its little kickstand there that just kind of hides discreetly there. Of course, I can use it flat on the desk. I think this device has built-in Bluetooth. I don't know if this will actually pair with the device itself, so if you did want to use it so the audio is at the other side of the room, you'd have to get some sort of USB extension. Any negatives about the RXV80? Well, the only negative isn't really their fault. They've gone for a very small, kind of very purpose-built for huddle spaces and small spaces meeting room device. They haven't joined others like Yealink, Logi, or Poly and released a touch console, which means you're very much restricted to the remote control, or as I said, mouse and keyboard or touchscreen, which I think will be fine in a huddle space where you can kind of reach out and touch that touchscreen, or you can use that mouse and keyboard. I think it'd be fine. The only other negative I can really call out is probably the looks. It's a little bit boxy, a little bit basic for my taste, but it's perfectly formed and functional for what it does. So if you're after kind of function over form, then this one is definitely the right one for you. The only other thing to say is that AudioCodes is brand new to this space, and this is their first device, so hopefully they'll be coming out with some new devices before long, and they'll start to really make some traction in the meeting room space. Maybe we can consider this to be a generation 1, and they'll be in the lab doing some tweaking and some other stuff, and actually coming out with some secret sauce for a generation 2, or another device, maybe something slightly bigger, something maybe that will support 2 screens and that kind of thing. And who knows, maybe even a touch console for the table like all the other devices. And that's it. I've been showing you the AudioCodes and Dolby RXV80. It's the collab bar on Microsoft Teams rooms on Android. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.